Welcome everyone to today's webinar. Again, this is Bree Reynolds with FlexJobs, and today's webinar is all about finding remote jobs in 2017. And we have an awesome guest panel today of employers and companies that hire for remote and flexible work. So you'll be hearing from people from Intuit, Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt, and VMware today. Very pleased to be presenting this webinar with you all today, and I'm just going to go over some housekeeping items so that we know what the hour is going to look like and what we're hoping to accomplish. First of all, the webinar will be about 60 minutes long. We're going to end it with an audience Q&A. So as we're going through the presentation, if you have questions, please feel free to ask them. You can ask them using the GoToWebinar control panel that's on your screen. If you don't see your GoToWebinar control panel, look around your screen for a little orange arrow. And if you click that orange arrow, the control panel should magically appear. So you can ask questions during the webinar, throughout the entire webinar on the control panel, all the way right up until the end. So as you have questions, please feel free to enter them. And we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. We generally try to keep it to questions that would appeal to the widest number of people in the audience. So anything that's super particular to your situation, we probably won't be able to answer those very specific questions, but we will try to get to as many broad questions as we can. You can also download a handout from today's webinar that just features information about the topics that we're discussing today, as well as the 3 companies that are represented today. That's also on the GoToWebinar control panel, so you can download that under the handout section. If you don't see that or that doesn't work for you, let us know by just typing in the questions area. We also have a link that you can follow to download that. Sometimes it doesn't work for folks to download it, but for most of you it should work. So feel free to download that handout with some helpful info. And then finally, there will be a survey, a very brief survey after the webinar today. I hope you'll stick around. It takes maybe 10 seconds to fill out. It's 3 very quick questions, but it just helps us gauge how the webinar went and helps us improve on these events in the future. So right after the webinar ends today, we'll just ask you to stick around if you can for a couple more seconds to complete that survey. And if you don't have time, we will also be emailing it tomorrow. So you can fill out the survey via email tomorrow, and we send that to you as well. All right, so let's talk about the topics that we're going to be covering today. Those have to do with just a quick introduction about FlexJobs and obviously why we're putting on this event today. And then I'm going to go over some very quick remote job market trends. We'll talk about remote job search tips very briefly, and then we're really going to get into the heart of the presentation today, which is our representatives from Intuit, Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt, and VMware. And they're going to be discussing why flexible work and remote work is important to their company and what they look for when they're hiring people for those types of positions. And then finally, we will go into the audience Q&A, where we'll ask as many of your questions as we can and try to arm you all with some really good job search insights and advice so that you can find a remote job in 2017. So just to kind of go over and introduce the folks that are going to be speaking today, this is our employer panel, and you'll be hearing from all of them pretty shortly. From Intuit, we have Jay Mansavage. He's the Senior Talent Acquisition Manager for Consumer Tax Group and a Community Care Leader. We also have Laura Greenwald from VMware. She is the Senior Director, Talent Acquisition. And we have Kathy Talcott, there we go, from Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt. She's the Talent Acquisition Senior Recruiter. So very excited to have Jay, Laura, and Kathy here representing their great companies, all top 100 companies, and we will hear from them pretty shortly. So the first thing I just wanted to go over very briefly was a little bit about FlexJobs. We're the folks hosting the webinar, so in case you're not familiar with FlexJobs, I know we usually have a mix of FlexJobs members and non-members here. So hello to all the FlexJobs members out there, and welcome to anybody who's new to FlexJobs and kind of unfamiliar. We are actually celebrating our 10th anniversary this month. We're a job search website that lists pre-screened telecommuting, flexible schedule, full-time and part-time, and freelance jobs. So basically anything that's outside of the typical 9-to-5 in-office job, but that's professional level, high quality, and a good job, but just offers some kind of flexibility, that's what we focus on. That's what we specialize in. We have over 60 staffers who all work from home, so we really walk the walk when it comes to flexibility. Also, many of us have flexible schedules. We have full-time and part-time folks and some freelancers also. And since our founding back in 2007, we've helped over 2 million job seekers in their search for more flexible jobs. So we're very excited about that. and excited to have you all here today as well. We have a database of over 47,000 researched and vetted companies, and that's actually how we came up with this top 100 list, which I'll go over in just a minute. So you can see where those companies actually come from. And we're a membership site, which means that we have job seekers who subscribe to FlexJobs and pay a membership fee either monthly, 3 months, or yearly. And they get access to all of our job listings and descriptions and a clean database of scam-free, ad-free, professional-level, flexible jobs. So it just makes, if you're searching for this sort of work, it makes it faster, easier, and safer to find all of those types of jobs. We also offer a 100% satisfaction guarantee. So for anybody who's currently a FlexJobs member, or if you're wondering whether you should sign up, we offer a complete satisfaction guarantee. So for any reason you're unsatisfied, you just have to request a refund, and we give you your subscription fee back. We really want people to be satisfied with the service and feel that they are getting something from this service that we're providing. We also offer a lot of free things that you can access as the public, like this webinar and like that database of companies, and also our blog, which features over 4,000 articles related to job searching and flexible jobs, and you can find information about putting together resumes and cover letters and all sorts of stuff for flexible work. So I invite you to check out flexjobs.com/blog as well. So a little bit about the 100 top companies for remote jobs in 2017. So that's one of the themes of this webinar, is this particular list. We put it out every year, and if you go to that web address, you can find that list. It features the 100 companies with the most remote job postings all of last year. So we have that database of over 47,000 companies, and we look at the database, we crunch the numbers, and figure out which of those companies posted the most remote-friendly jobs throughout the year. And remote friendly means that it has to offer some level of telecommuting or remote work. Those are kind of synonymous. You'll hear me saying remote and telecommute and work from home. Generally, those all mean the same thing. But what this list is, it's the 100 companies that offer workers the ability to work remotely as much as possible. So that might be 100% of the time. It might be some of the time where you're going into the office a few days a week and working from home a few days a week. There's a lot of different combinations of remote work that we list, but these 100 companies are really the ones that stand out in terms of supporting remote work and listing remote-friendly jobs. And of course, we have Intuit, Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt, and VMware here today, and they are all on our list of the 100 top companies for remote jobs last year. So congratulate those folks on really supporting remote work and helping people find jobs that fit their lives. A little bit of information that we gleaned from researching these 100 companies are the top career fields for remote jobs. So out of all of the companies that listed the most remote jobs last year, we looked at their remote jobs and tried to figure out which career fields were offering the most opportunity in terms of remote work. And so these are the top 7. These are really what stood out in terms of where the jobs are coming from. And so you can see it's a really wide mix. There's medical and health, education and training, government, of course, customer service, and computer and IT are ones that people probably think of right off the top of their head. But then things like sales and finance are also in there. And these are really where we saw the most number of listings being posted. So if your career field is in that list, of course, you feel great because it'll probably be easier to find a remote job. But if your career field is not listed, keep in mind that we looked at over 55 career categories to come up with the top career fields. So if yours isn't in here, it certainly doesn't mean that remote work is not an option for you. It really just means that it wasn't one of the very top career fields for remote job listings. But there certainly still could be lots of good opportunities out there for you just to do a little bit of research and find out what's there. And the next thing we wanted to know were the most common remote job titles. So when you're actually searching for remote jobs, which titles are you going to be seeing over and over again? Or if you're interested in wondering either whether your particular job function or a job that you're interested in getting into could be done remotely, you'll have a good sense of whether it can or can't by looking at this list. So we asked our job research team. We have a team of job researchers at FlexJobs who it's their goal to find as many remote and flexible positions to post to FlexJobs as possible. So they look at thousands of jobs every week, and they listed these ones as the job titles that they see over and over again for remote jobs. And so you'll see on here, again, that wide variety. These do tend to fit into those 7 career categories that we showed on the last slide, but there are some that are kind of out there and in different career fields. And again, it's just an overview of what is out there, but it's not the full picture. So if you don't see your particular job or one that you're interested on this list, it doesn't mean that it can't be done remotely. It just means that it's not in the very top in terms of remote job titles that we see on a regular basis. So some keyword searching for remote jobs. These are some things we always want people to keep in mind when they're searching for remote work. There are some keywords that are not so good when you're searching for remote jobs, and this has to do with job searching across the internet. Whatever job search site you're using, whether you're on LinkedIn or any other one of the bigger job boards or small niche job sites, the keywords that you really want to try to avoid are work from home and work at home. And the reason that we always try to tell people this is because those keywords are most often used by scammers. And there's a lot of scams when it comes to work from home or remote jobs. People just looking to get either your personal information or your credit card information. You know, there's a number of different things that they're out there looking to get, but for the most part, they're using the phrases work from home and work at home to kind of lure people in because it's very, like, of course, you know, work from home job sounds great. You've probably seen those scams in your spam box in your email where you can make thousands of dollars working from home in your pajamas, and they are very vague about what you would be doing in that role, but they're very specific that you'll be making lots of money. Those are the really obvious scams, but there are also very sophisticated scams out there too. So I invite everybody, if you go to the flexjobs.com/blog, we have a whole section on avoiding job scams that will go over all of the nitty-gritty details for all the different types of scams that are out there. So whether you just want to kind of arm yourself ahead of time with that knowledge, or if you think you've come across a scam and you want to do a little bit more research on it, that's a great section of our blog that can really help you understand what scams are out there and what to look out for. If you want to stay away from scams and find real job listings, the keywords that we always recommend people use are things like telecommuting, virtual, remote job, distributed team. Those are most often used by reputable companies offering actual true remote jobs. Legitimate remote jobs. And so those are the keywords that you really want to look for when you're searching for this type of work online. Now, it's not to say that every single job that says that it's a work from home job or a work at home job is definitely a scam. It's just that you're going to find a lot of scams when you're searching with those keywords. So try to use those better keywords to use, and you'll probably steer clear of a decent number of scams. Just some quick tips on creating resumes for remote jobs, and this is actually a question that you might have for the representatives from each of the companies today too, so please feel free to enter those questions in there. But just some things that we've seen that really stood out to us in a nice way. There are a couple different ways to include your previous remote work experience on your resume if you've ever worked remotely or telecommuted, worked from home before. If you don't have previous remote work experience, you could also put the skills on your resume that would make you a good remote worker, even if you've never actually worked from home before. So you can see a number of different things on these samples. These are from real resumes that we've seen for remote jobs. So this person on the very top, they put their status as an independent contractor and a telecommute position right up there in the job listing on their resume. And then in this second example, the pertinent technical skills, this one is really nice. This person does a nice job of putting the types of technical software and skills that they've used before that would make them a great remote worker or support their remote work. But even if you haven't worked remotely, you can use a lot of these different types of technology and list them on your resume. So this person's described them as tools used for effective telecommuting, and I just really liked how they've pointed that out to say, hey, here's the experience that I have with tools that help you telecommute. Even if I haven't worked remotely myself, I understand that a lot of these things are used, and here's what I have in my experience that will help me be a good remote worker. And then in this last one, the person's chosen the summary of qualifications, which is a nice section to have at the top of your resume, to talk about the skills that they have and the specific experience that they have in working remotely. So this person's actually got that 6 years of experience working remotely in flexible office environments, and then that they've focused on proactive communication, whether in office or working remotely. And communication is really one of those big things that good remote workers do well. If you are going to be a good remote worker, you have to be a good communicator. You have to be able to communicate verbally, in writing, and often, and in all sorts of different ways. So that's a great skill to highlight. So we just wanted to give you some different ideas for when you're looking at your resume, the ways that you could be showing either your previous remote experience or flexible work experience, and then also your skills and supporting attributes and characteristics that would make you a good remote worker, whether or not you actually have worked from home before. So just some ideas for you there. But now I'm excited to get into the employer panel. So first up, talking about Intuit's flexible and remote work options, we have Jay Mansavage. Jay, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Good morning or afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are. I'm in San Diego, so it's morning for me. My name is Jay Mansavage. I've been with Intuit for 7 years. I currently am the TA leader for our customer care community, which is cuts across our entire company. And then I also am the TA leader for our consumer tax group, which is based here in San Diego. That's essentially TurboTax. I'm excited to join today's webinar, share a little bit more about Intuit, the remote positions we hire, and why working remote is important to us and our culture here. So a little bit about Intuit. Intuit was founded in 1983 when our founder, Scott Cook, sat at his kitchen table and watched his wife balance her checkbook and thought there has to be a better way. We today have about approximately 8,000 plus employees across 23 locations in 10 different countries, including US, Canada, UK, Israel, Australia, Brazil, and India. Our company mission is to improve our customers' financial lives so profoundly they cannot imagine going back the old way. Through our products like TurboTax, QuickBooks, ProConnect, Mint, and leveraging mobile, cloud, and web technologies, we have helped over 45 million customers do more with their money. TurboTax alone last year helped over 30 million people receive an estimated $66 billion in tax refunds. QuickBooks Self-Employed, which was launched just a couple of years back in January of 2015, last year has helped subscribers identify an average of $4,300 in potential tax savings every year. So a lot of cool products, a lot of innovation that we're doing. We hire approximately 1,500 to 1,800 remote employees each year, with the majority of those falling in our customer care and sales group. And as you can see on the slide here, there's many types of remote job openings we have today, but for today's purposes, I'm going to focus on the largest area of remote hiring we do, which falls in our tax advisory services group. So for the past 7 years, our consumer tax group has hired remote tax advice and tax support agents to work and support our TurboTax customers. Our tax advice agents, the difference between the two roles, those are what we refer to as our tax experts. Those are our licensed and credentialed tax professionals that either have their CPA or their EA, which is an enrolled agent certification. And so those are really kind of tax specialists that are able to help our customers with any specific tax questions that they may have. Last year, we introduced this exciting technology that we call SmartLook with a very small group of on-site agents. What this technology allowed our customers the ability to interact with an agent live via video on any device, whether it's your phone, your PC, or your tablet. And so last year, it was a small group that we rolled it out. It was, we kept the agents on site, but it was a huge hit, not just for our customers, but also for our agents and the ability to use the technology. So this year, we are really excited, and we've rolled it out to all of our agents across the country, and including all of our remote agents. And so some of you guys have probably seen some of this capability and feature and service has been featured in a lot of our commercials this year. So you've seen our funny commercials with David Ortiz, DJ Khaled, Kathy Bates, and even Humpty Dumpty showed up on the Super Bowl in our commercial. But those little agents that they pop up and talk to it, those are the agents that we have. All of those agents are working remote from their home. Most of these employees are seasonal employees. They usually start in the November, December timeframe. And then they work through tax season. However, we know that we have customers that are, we are supporting year-round, so we do have full-time agents that are working year-round supporting our customers. So far this season, in this specific group, we have hired over 1,400 tax advice and tax support agents. And so a good majority of the hiring is done for this current season. However, we are still hiring, and we do have a class that's coming up at the end of February. And as I mentioned, we do hire year-round in this scale, but a majority of that hiring starts, those folks start in the November-December timeframe. Why is working remote important to Intuit? The flexibility to work remote is very important to our culture. By allowing employees to work remote, it not only creates a much larger candidate pool to choose from, but it also brings candidates with a much broader set of experience. At Intuit, we feel it's everyone's job to innovate. This is something that our CEO, Brad Smith, preaches on a regular basis. And we found that innovation thrives in a workforce that really includes employees with a wide range of life experiences, and more importantly, a supportive culture that lets these great ideas rise to the top. So because of this, we certainly don't want to limit the innovation to only employees that work on-site at one of our locations, but really allow all 8,000 employees the ability to make an impact. I am personally grateful for our remote work culture. The team that I lead that does a lot of this hiring is about 50+ people between recruiters, coordinators, and sourcers, and about 80% of that team works remote from their home offices. So my home base is in the San Diego office. I don't have anybody on my team that works in San Diego. All 50 of those people are either working at one of our different locations, or most of them are working remotely from their house. In order to find our remote positions, you can see on our career site, there's a couple different, the careers.intuit.com site. If you click on that site, there's an orange search job button. You can click on that, and there's two ways you can find our remote positions. You can either just type in our keyword section, the word remote, and all the positions will pop up. Or if you'd like, you can go to the location drop-down box section. And there's usually like a checkbox of locations, and there's actually a location that just says remote. You may also see things like says San Diego or California remote or Arizona remote, and those are still remote positions with likely the hiring manager being on site in one of our locations in that state. So, in addition to the remote, when you're looking at those are the positions that are 100% remote, where you're not going on site. Even if you're working on a position on site in one of our locations, we also allow employees the flexibility to work remote as necessary. So, for example, I am based in San Diego. I primarily come into our San Diego office, but I do average about 1 day a week working remote from my house, and the culture and the ability is great. So. I appreciate everyone's time today. I'm looking forward to answering any additional questions that anybody may have during the Q&A. But thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay. That was a great overview. And we do have some questions coming in that are Intuit specific, so we will get to those in the Q&A.
Great.
All right. Up next, we have Laura Greenwald, who's the Senior Director of Talent Acquisition at VMware. Laura, thank you so much for being here.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Bree. A little bit about VMware for those of you that may not be familiar. We're a global leader in virtualization, focused on data center, cloud, and mobile devices. And really our goal is to help our customers be more agile and responsive as well as profitable. So founded in 1998, we're based out of Palo Alto, California, and we have about 20,000 employees worldwide. VMware, we have a lot of roles open at any given time, on average about 1,000 roles open that are accessible through our website. But I think the thing to know about VMware is that we really do believe that talent is the center of our success, and that talent is a differentiator. So what that translates to from a remote role perspective is that really we're focused on bringing the best talent into VMware, and that means creating flexible work options as well as supporting a culture of work-life integration. So if you were to go out on the website, and certainly with FlexJobs, we have a lot of roles that are listed as remote. And then I think beyond that, there's a lot of flexibility to really, determine what makes sense for you. So we have roles open in engineering, as well as our business organization, and then customer, which is in essence sales, that are all full-time telecommuting opportunities, as well as flexible schedules, really based on need. So the idea is we go where the talent is, and then we work with those folks to make sure that they've got a good configuration that works for them. There's certainly a few roles that are absolutely on the ground every day, but by and large, the culture is really about integration and making sure that we've got the right people doing the right work. So a lot of possibilities in that regard. You know, something we talked a little bit about finding remote opportunities, and my advice would be really to look for progressive companies that are more interested in really delivering results and execution versus traditional face time. So you think about your network and who you speak to, really getting a handle on what that looks like with those companies. Another thing is, I think, don't assume. I do think it can be tricky sometimes to really uncover where the flexible jobs or the remote opportunities really lie, and oftentimes as a recruiting organization, sometimes you have to make a determination on a location, and often as you dig in, people are more open to other locations or remote as well. So if a role would say, you know, it's based in whatever, Palo Alto, California, there may be more openness than it may appear online. So I think that's just a tip I would share. And then obviously, you know, leveraging resources like FlexJobs, where you have an opportunity to kind of see and have a one-stop shop to a lot of opportunities, I think uncovers, you know, those remote opportunities pretty simply. So in terms of VMware and what we look for in remote workers, from a competency perspective, there's things that make remote workers really successful, and I think some of these are pretty obvious. Being autonomous in your work and really looking for folks that are self-starters that can get in and actually hit the ground running. Really folks that have a track record of accountability, solution orientation, and really building rapport remotely. I think you know you've been successful when someone feels that you're not necessarily remote, right? So being able to build that rapport and communicate, as Bree mentioned, I think is really important, and then also collaborate. So some of the softer skills I think are incredibly important, and I think they're the differentiators between folks that do really well with remote work and those that struggle. And so I think as you uncover those roles and as you go through the interview process, the ability to kind of demonstrate some of those competencies through that process, I think will really resonate with employers as they're considering you. And then I think just my general advice for those that do work remote is really around accessibility. I think you know, sometimes there's perceptions that people are not working as hard if they're remote, and I think the reality is those of us that have been remote, I worked fully remote for 7 years at one point, and I think you need to be present and be accessible and be available, and then certainly accountable. And then leveraging technology. I know Bree touched on this as well, but you know, Skype and IM, those things that make you accessible are really, again, differentiators, and I think make it a more transparent experience between folks that are actually in the office and those that are remote. So those are just a bit on my advice. And again, VMware by and large, incredibly open. I think progressive companies are moving that direction. So where we are today, I think we'll see more and more opportunities you know, over time, but I think we've taken some really large steps forward, and you start to see that in employers that are making this list. So I think that's all I have. Bree, I'll turn it back to you.
Awesome, Laura, that was great. Thank you. Really good overview of VMware and also kind of those general job search tips that I think people love to hear. So thank you for both of those.
Sure.
And then last but certainly not least, we have Kathy Talcott from Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt. Why do I want to say Callie the whole time? Kathy is a Talent Acquisition Senior Recruiter. There we go. So Kathy, thank you so much for being here today, and take it away.
Thank you so much. Well, I really agree with a lot of what Laura and Jay said. They had some great tips. And so to differentiate myself a little bit, I think I'm going to talk really loudly and very quickly. So here we go. Thank you very much for inviting Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt to participate in the FlexJobs.com webinar. I'm Kathy Talcott, the Talent Acquisition Recruiter for HMH. I've been with HMH for about 6 years. And I wanted to share a little bit about our company, and then I will definitely share why FlexJobs are important to us. And Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt has been around a very long time, since 1832. Most people are familiar with our strong reputation for making those K-12 textbooks, but HMH is really a global learning company. Our products and solutions are interactive, research-based, and classroom tested. We also have a lucrative and prominent trade division with titles like Curious George, Lord of the Rings, Life of Pi, Polar Express, and The Hobbit. We're a media company that has over 18 million users of our digital platforms. 100% of all of our K-12 products are digitally enabled, and HMH recently launched its first subscription platform, Curious World. It's a learning app for children 3 to 7, and it's topped well over 1 million downloads. We're very proud of that. We also have a couple other games that y'all may have heard of. We're in the World's Carmen San Diego and Oregon Trail. If you want to look at us by the numbers, I think they're posted there. We have been in business over 180 years. We have 25 offices worldwide, 4,600 employees, and we have served over 50 million students in 150 countries. So we're very proud to be the first in market share for reading, math, and intervention solutions. We're super excited to be included in the FlexJobs. We definitely encourage people, when possible, to have that flexibility. We have about 1,500 home-based employees, including part of our talent acquisition team. We have some roles that have to be in the office, but a lot of them do offer some flexibility on location and can be remote. So as Laura and Jay were saying, whether an employee works from the home or office, it may not be as easy to tell from just looking at the location. And that's why FlexJobs is so important to us. So we put our positions on FlexJobs.com that are specifically for home-based positions. A lot of those are going to be sales, account execs, curriculum consultants, technical field engineers. All these people will be going out to school districts and helping us with our getting our products out there, pre-sales, post-sales, and getting the school districts acclimated. Some of our home-based positions do require quite a bit of travel, but not all. And if you want to find our FlexJobs or our remote positions, you could look at FlexJobs.com. We also have a place on our website under About Us, where you can find all of our remote and work from home opportunities. And then finally, if you'd like to set up a profile on our career site, we will send you alerts whenever a home-based position opens. Please keep in mind that the positions, as they mentioned before, can be a little deceiving. So it may say that it needs to be in California, but it could be in Nevada, Arizona. It could be home-based. We don't always list it home-based. If they would prefer it being in a certain location, like Palo Alto, we may not say it's home-based, but it can be. And the real reason is because we are really looking for top talent, and we don't want to limit ourselves just by location. So please don't be deceived by locations. We usually do list in the job description if it can be a work remote position. And a lot of our positions, even if they aren't listed as work remote, we do offer flex time, flexible schedules, and even part-time working from home because we do offer a real work-life balance culture here. So keep that in mind. We are very geographically dispersed, our teams are, and we definitely value strong technology here, so we can have our positions completed anywhere. We're really looking for that key top talent. So what does HMH look for in flexible workers? The same things that we're hiring in our regular employees. It really goes back to our company values. We look for candidates who remain curious and innovative, resulting in new ideas or remarkable discoveries. We look for commitment, a good former track record, candidates that have delivered and been successful in past roles, people that are effective, reliable, working both independently on a team. And when you work remotely, you're still very much part of a team. We're a very collaborative, creative group. So from day one, we want to make sure all our employees are successful, and we set them up to be that way. We have a great onboarding program that ensures that all new hires, whether they're home-based or in an office, have what they need to do their job well, especially technology-wise. And we also set everyone up with a mentor that helps them transition into a new role. Managers reach out to new hires with very clear directions and expectations on open communication and try and build that relationship day one. So no matter what your position in the company, we really try to inspire people to be creative and collaborative. If you're interested at all, please feel free to reach out to our website at careers.hmhco.com or flexjobs.com, or the flexjobs.com has all of our opportunities as well that are remote. And I'm open to any questions if anyone has any. Thank you so much for having me. Hello?
Awesome, Kathy. Thank you so much. And that Oregon Trail reference just sent me straight back to childhood. I loved Oregon Trail. That was that's how I spent a lot of my childhood was playing that game. So,
isn't that fun? It was inducted into the Gaming Hall of Fame in 2016.
Oh, nice. Oh, I like that. Very cool to have it kind of pop back up in my memory today. Thank you. And also thank you for the good pertinent information about remote work too. That was also probably very helpful for everybody here. Well, yeah, speaking of questions, we have lots of questions rolling in for everybody on the panel today. So let's get to as many of those questions as we can. So the first question that we have, and this comes up a lot because every company does this differently, so I would love to hear from each of you, is about when you're listing remote opportunities. A lot of times job listings will include a location and also say that the position is remote. So it might have a city or a state and then also say, yes, it's a telecommuting position. For each of your companies, I would love to hear how you list remote positions and if they do have location requirements, because one thing that we've learned is that most remote positions actually do have some sort of location requirement, whether it's by a particular city or state or even just country. There is some sort of location involved in how you hire people. So Jay, if you would go first with Intuit, what is the deal with your remote positions and location? How do you guys handle that?
Yeah, great question. So I mentioned too, there's a couple different ways. So when you see on our career site, the roles that are 100% remote, they will be described as such, right? So the location will be remote, the keyword will be remote. Oftentimes what we do is we put the word remote in the job title. So therefore, if people are, that's why if you do a keyword search in there, it should pull up. So those positions are 100% remote. And then I mentioned also, if you go on our career site, there's usually the drop down on the location box. You might see California remote or Arizona remote or Texas remote. Usually what that means is it's affiliated with one of our main sites. So we have San Diego, our headquarters up in Mountain View, California, in Northern California. We also have Plano. And so usually when they say that, that means that those are the optional ones where you say, okay, we'd like you to have some sort of the ability to come into the office if need be, but you still have the ability to work remote. So to kind of sum it up is that the remote positions are described 100% as remote. Most positions, if they are, the first preference would be to hire on-site in San Diego, one of our main locations, and then in the job description it'll say usually we're remote. So oftentimes you just need to kind of inquire a little bit further on, as part of the application process or read through that job description.
Awesome, thank you. I think that makes total sense. And Laura at VMware, how about you guys as far as locations and remote jobs and how you are listing those sorts of things?
Sure, it is by and large exactly how Jay mentioned. So there are some that they're absolutely definitively remote, and then there's some that will have a kind of a primary location with remote as an option. And so you'll see those show up in both ways, and then you'll see ones that will say blatantly, again, Palo Alto, California, where if you dig in a little bit more, there may be some more openness to it, if that's the case. So I think it's you'll be able to uncover the ones that are for sure remote by way of searching that in that capacity. But then again, I think there's opportunities to have a conversation around some of the other ones as well.
Awesome, great. Glad to hear those are kind of on the same page. And then Kathy at Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt, how about your remote jobs and how they're listed, if location is important, and kind of what that looks like when a job seeker is looking for jobs with HMH?
Right, it is the same as Laura and Jay have just said, except for that, excuse me, so if, for instance, I have a field engineer position that's posted right now and it's posted in California, I can only pick one location without duplicating the requisition. Anything that is on FlexJobs.com is a remote-based position, but I've also put in the job description. This could be in Nevada, this can be in Arizona. It's covering a region, so we need somebody that's on that West Coast. So it could be California, Seattle, Oregon, Nevada. You know what I mean? So and those states are listed, but they're keywords, and they're not going to. So if someone says I need a job in Nevada, it may not come up as the location. So it's a little tricky. So if you went to HMH's website and you looked by location in Nevada, there would not be anything there. If you look up field engineer, it would be there, and you'd have to read the job description and see, okay, this can be in all different places. Or if it's home-based and in California, you may want to read it because it can be any location. So sometimes we'll have multiple postings of the exact same job in several different locations, and it's all one job, but we just want to make sure that we're hitting other locations. But if it's on FlexJobs, it's definitely a remote position. The other thing I was talking about is that if you're looking, and like they said, We'd really love someone to be in the Boston office. If we can't, we'll take someone in Orlando or Austin or Chicago, wherever the best talent is. And if you're a phenomenal candidate, we may be open to you working remotely and then just traveling in once a month, or, you know, it may require more travel, but we'd be open to it. And that will be listed in the job description.
All right, great.
Really,
thank you so much. I think that helps.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, exactly. So much of the location thing is based on position for each of these companies, as we've seen. And it also kind of proves that there are so many different shades of gray. So when we talk about a remote-friendly job, it could be any one of those scenarios where you're either 100% remote or remote some of the time, remote most of the time. It's kind of, it depends on the position and what's required of it. So thank you all very much. That was really helpful. And then also, speaking of the roles that you are hiring for, this is a question for each company. Are you hiring, when you talk about some of the roles that you've talked about so far, are they employee roles? Are they contractor roles, which is also known as freelance for the audience? When I say contractor, I also mean freelance or 1099 or self-employed, independent, all of those kinds of words that go into that. So if you could just talk a little bit about the difference at your company and what you're hiring for in terms of employee roles versus freelance or contract roles. Jay at Intuit, how about you guys?
Yeah, so all the roles that I talked about today and that were advertised today would be all be employee roles. We do have a couple different employee models. So I mentioned the example I gave around tax advice and tax support agents. That is actually a seasonal employee model. So you're an employee of Intuit. However, you're going to be working for about a 6-month time frame, and so you're paid as an employee. You're eligible to participate in all of our benefits program. If it makes sense, you're eligible to participate in our 401k and the stuff that our normal full-time employees get. But it's a seasonal role, so it's just a different employee classification. And then everything else would be considered employees full-time, your normal full-time employees. In terms of contractor or 1099 opportunities, those are all handled through our contingent partners, and so we have a separate company that does that in a lot of our things. So those would not show up on our career site. Those would not show up on the intuit.careers.com. Those would be handled separately through our contingent partners.
All right, great, thank you. That was pretty straightforward. And then Laura at VMware, how about you folks and employee versus freelancer roles?
So the roles I'm referencing are definitely employee roles. We do have partners that we work with to bring contractors on, and those jobs do tend to be remote and flexible as well. But the ones I'm sort of highlighting are tied to full-time employee opportunities.
All right, great. And I think that's what probably lots of folks are looking on for here in the audience also. So that's good to know, although we do have a number of freelance and contract folks out there too. And then Kathy at Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt, how about your roles?
The ones I mentioned are full-time employees and benefits eligible. We do tend to also post per diem positions. We hire a lot of classroom teachers to go out and do professional development, and they are employed by HMH, but it's on a as-needed basis. So those are a little different. We also do a lot of contracting of freelancers for illustrators, editorial, even some technology, but that's also handled through our contractor Pro Unlimited.
All right, fantastic. I think this is a really good overview of how things work when it comes to recruiting. You guys have a lot of things to juggle, that's for sure. And so another question for all three companies is about making yourself stand out. So when people are applying for these jobs, remote jobs in particular, what really catches your eye when you're looking for an applicant for a remote job? I know that you all talked a little bit about what you look for in remote workers, but is there anything in particular that you would definitely recommend people do, like writing a cover letter? Is that something that you love, don't love, or just anything that really helps people stand out? A number of people are asking about that. So we'll round robin again to Jay at Intuit.
It's a great question. I think a lot of the tips that you had suggestion to about where you want to put it, the things that we would look for are like oftentimes people that have worked remote in the past tend to have a lot better track record than folks that have never worked remote and this is their first remote job. So those things definitely stand out. So you want to make sure that's very clear on your resume and on your profile. Cover letters, I think that's kind of a personal decision. Sometimes they could be effective, but oftentimes they may not be reviewed. So I think if you have a really well-written resume or profile, and you can clearly articulate that your last few roles and that you have demonstrated experience working remote in that culture and following some of the tips that you had suggested at the start of this call, I think that to me personally, that's more important than a cover letter.
All right, great. Thank you, Jay. And Laura at VMware, how about you folks? What really stands out to you when people are submitting applications for remote jobs?
So I think the most important thing is a well-written resume focused on your actual skills to the work that's getting done. So I think there's an opportunity to highlight things that are going to make you more effective as a remote worker, such as the technology that we talked about, familiarity with Skype or things of that nature, collaboration tools. But for us, by and large, we're always going to start with the experience and then dig into again, are the soft skills there to support an effective telecommute situation? But I don't know that we would look for someone who's really playing that up necessarily. I think there's indications you can pull through in the resume, but the experience, direct experience, and that's going to be much more important versus a lot of indications in the resume that somebody has done this before.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Laura. And Kathy at Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt, how about you folks and what really stands out when people are applying for remote jobs?
You know what, we are really looking for a specific person. So it is definitely experience and skill set based. So, I mean, a well-written resume is essential, but we are also looking for that experience, whether it be a marketing manager, an editor, or field engineer. So if you have the background and the experience, that's going to be first and foremost. But it is nice to know that you can work with the technology that we have in place as far as file sharing, IMing. We do a ton of, I mean, you're constantly communicating. So if you have those skill sets, I would definitely put that on your resume if you haven't already. We even, as part of our interview process, use a HireVue, which is an on-demand interview tool. And I think, as far as getting to that first step, it's important to understand that you are very comfortable with technology, you have the right experience, and you have, whether it be an experience in the past working from home or just working independently or autonomously, is really important as well. So, I mean, if you can highlight those things in your resume, that's great, but most important is having relevant skill set in that experience for the positions we offer, especially because they're so niche,
Yeah, exactly. I think that is one of the things that people get caught up on is making themselves stand out as a remote worker, but really ultimately it comes down to the skills that you have for that particular job. So don't forget that part, everyone, to have the skills and experience for the particular job duties. And then also if you have the skills and know how to work remotely or work independently, that works well too. And so another question that we have, again, for all three companies is about training. A number of people are asking about how your training, if any training, is provided for remote workers. How does that work? Is it all remote? Is there any in-person training? How do you approach that sort of thing? So Jay at Intuit, you're up.
Yeah, so I mean, I talked a lot about the tax advice group that we do bulk of our remote hiring in. There is a formalized training program. It's usually anywhere between 1 to 2 weeks. It is all done remote, as most of the managers that in that group are also remote themselves. So everything is done virtually. With technology these days, and we do have video conferencing capability. It's done through one of our video conferencing, or it's done through a WebEx or webinar or some sort of online communication tool. But there is a formalized training program.
All right, great. And Laura at VMware, how about you folks in training for remote workers?
I'd say it probably varies between organizations in terms of some really formalized programs and some more, I guess, less formal on-the-job training. By and large, whether you're remote or you're on-site at VMware, a lot of our training and development is on-demand or online or web-based. We're a global company, so we've got the benefit of getting those calls for folks to kind of take at their leisure. So, I definitely mentioned self-starters, and I think it's important to have that attribute, certainly, but there's a lot of a lot of resources available to folks at VMware as they're coming up to speed, and most of those are consumed, again, through a WebEx or through some sort of online platform.
Great, thank you very much. And then Kathy, same question for you and Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt.
I'm sorry,
Kathy,
I was on
mute.
Yes, yes,
that happens
sorry.
to me all the time.
Yes, we do have we also have we do have an extensive training program. We have all kinds of videos. It's all video based, webinar based. We do have live chat. We have Skype, business Skype as well. So the hiring manager is supposed to initiate, and then we have it down to a 30-day, 60-day, and 90-day windows where they have check marks on certain things that have to be accomplished in those time frames to hold both the manager accountable and the rest of the team accountable for making sure that everybody is integrated and on the same page. I hope that helps.
Hey, Bria, I would just, this is Jay, I would just agree with, as Laura mentioned too, we also have online training available that all employees, whether you're remote or on-site, it is part of your onboarding experience to go through and, make sure that within your first week, 2 weeks, there's usually a pay period and even ongoing where you have to make sure that you're staying up with trainings that are done all online on your own.
Yeah, exactly. We do too.
Awesome. Was that Kathy at HMH at the end?
Sorry. Yes. Yes, exactly.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure. Great. No, that's really good. I think that makes people a lot more comfortable. I remember when I was starting work at my first remote job, I remembered thinking, oh my goodness, I took a job with a company where I've never met anyone in person. I've never walked into a building, and how do I know this is even a real thing? So I think the remote training period really helps to make you feel like you're a part of that company that you just signed up to work for. So it's good to hear you guys all have some good training in place. All right, and so another question that we have from a number of people here is about the experience required. So this was actually for Kathy in particular, but I think there are a number of related questions for the whole group. So I'll start with Kathy, but it has to do with because your company is so closely tied to education, does having an educational background, is that required for any of your particular positions or all of your positions? Do you look for that education experience in the positions that you hire for? Kathy at Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt.
Right, that is a great question, and yes, we do hire quite a bit of educators. As far as it matters what position you're looking, looking for. All of our curriculum consultants, all of our sales folks have some sort of education background, have been a teacher or have worked in another educational publisher. So you don't necessarily have to be a teacher, but we do want you having sales experience in some sort of publishing field. The curriculum consultants definitely, but not all, like all the technical field positions, marketing managers, we would like some of them to have education. It's just really nice to have somebody come in from the outside and say, I really, as a teacher, would like to see something different, and then work with our marketing group. So we really value their opinion, but it's not necessary in all of our positions. Definitely not in anything editorial design, even not even really in marketing. I mean, it's helpful, but it's not necessary.
All right, that sounds good. And then Jay at Intuit, how about you folks? Any particular backgrounds that you wanted to highlight for the positions that you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, echo what others said too, is that most of the stuff is spelled out in the job description. Anything that require, we don't look for a specific, generally look for, specific, everyone has to have the same background. It's all varies based on position. Again, for the tax advice roles and tax support positions, there are some pretty, for the tax advice roles, there are pretty hard requirements, meaning you have to have one of those certifications I mentioned, either your CPA or your enrolled agent, and we will actually, that is a hard, fast requirement for the job. So that doesn't, that's probably the only specific thing. And then more generally for Intuit, I think what we look for, like anyone else, is that, any larger company experience, any like industry experience, software experience, just anything that's more similar to the industry that we're in, always is a plus, but it's not a hard, fast requirement.
All right, great, thank you. And then Laura at VMware, same question for you. Are there any particular backgrounds and experience that you're looking for in general, or is it really more position specific?
I think it's definitely position specific, and again, really broad, from software development across to business operations as well as sales. And so really role to role. And I think, we definitely look for folks that have, experience at competitors, experience at similar scale and size, global, global experience, or working in a global company. Some of those things are certainly good to have, but by and large, it's the specific pieces of the role that we need, whether that's a certain type of software coding or, to Jay's point, certain certification, things of that nature.
All right, great. And it looks like we probably have time for one more question for the group here. So our last question has to do with equipment provided. So when you work remotely, oftentimes it really is company specific what sorts of equipment is provided, whether that's, laptops, phones, nothing, a stipend, anything, all that sort of stuff. So if we could just go around the group again and talk about any equipment specific to home offices that you all provide, or how that works at your company, that would be great. So Jay at Intuit, how about you?
Yeah, I'll start to just generally, we provide everybody the same equipment whether you work on-site or remote. So that means typically includes a laptop or a computer, a phone, and any necessary software that's needed to do your job. So that's just kind of generic. For the specific roles that I was talking about, the tax advice, tax support roles, those we send a little bit more equipment, because now with the new requirement of those candidates working from home but also being on video, we send all of those folks a backdrop that they attach to their chair, so it's not like when they're on the camera they're not viewing into their entire house or their office or whatever it is. It's kind of a general blue screen or backdrop that attaches to your chair. We also send them, T-shirts to wear, and we send them a headset that's specific to done. So there's more specific things tied to those jobs that we do provide. But we also that's pretty much it. Part of the requirements for those positions too do require that you have a certain you make sure that you have internet access, and it has to be a certain speed. So there are some hard, fast requirements just from a systems perspective, but then we provide everything else.
All right, very good to know. Thank you. And Laura at VMware, how about you folks and equipment for remote workers?
Sure. So yes, laptops, telephones, those are all provided, and similar to Jay, yeah, definitely expectation around the internet and things of that nature, and that is reimbursable and for remote employees. And then those that get hired directly into full-on remote jobs, there is a stipend that those folks get to sort of set up a home office, but those that are sort of toggle back and forth, we don't provide that. So it really just sort of depends on if it's full-blown remote. They'll have a little bit of a setup, whether that's to buy a printer or things of that nature. But all of the equipment, software, is all taken care of.
All right, thank you very much. And actually, one thing that came to light when we were going over these, and a number of people voiced that they were actually emailing the HMH email here, and it has a typo in it. So sorry, everyone. So the real website, it shouldn't be careers@HMH. That is not an email address. It's supposed to be a web address. It should be careers.hmhco.com. So that's careers. Instead of at hmhco.com. So sorry about the confusion there. That was a little typo on our part. And yes, let's get to, sorry, Kathy at HMH, now that we've got that corrected. How about you folks and equipment for remote workers?
Thank you. Yes, let's see. We do offer a complete home office as far as a laptop. The sales group do get cars. The curriculum consultants, I believe they get reimbursement for mileage. We do reimburse for internet. We offer cell phones and tablets. We try to provide them with everything they're going to need to get started. Webcam, because we do a lot of Skype, and headsets as well. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that goes out as their welcome package. All the sales staff also get, I believe, shirts and jackets, because, well, they're out in the field. And I'm trying to think of what else. That's pretty standard. Even if you're working from home, even part-time, like some people only work from home a couple days a week, you also get all of that, except for, obviously, we don't reimburse for mileage if you're choosing to work from home part-time. And we don't reimburse for internet as either if you're working remote by choice for some of those positions.
Gotcha. Perfect. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right. And as I know we've reached the top of the hour here, so I just wanted to wrap up. First of all, thank you so much to Jay Mansavage at Intuit and Laura Greenwald at VMware and Kathy Talcott at Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt. Thank you all so much for being here today and sharing this great information with our audience.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And for everybody here today, job seekers, professionals, thank you for joining us for the webinar. This was a wonderful event, I think one of our highest attended ever, so thank you all for being a part of it. Thank you for the many questions. I know there were so many that we didn't have a chance to get to. I think if we spent another few hours here, we probably wouldn't get to all of them, so thank you for your involvement, your great questions, and your participation here today. Just a couple next steps that I wanted to get into. So right after we end this, there will be a quick survey that pops up on your screen. If you want to take a few seconds to fill that out, we would be very grateful. And then tomorrow, you will receive an email with that same survey in case you want to fill it out then, as well as the handout with information from this webinar and the recording of this webinar in case you want to review any of the information that we presented here today. We do also have an upcoming webinar on March 7th. It is with 3 great companies hiring for flexible and remote jobs. Those companies are Erie Insurance, VIP Kid, and Aperio. And for all of that information on the companies, the types of jobs that they're hiring for, you can go to flexjobs.com/blog and then go to the FlexJobs resources section and job search webinars and videos. That's also where the video from this webinar will live forever, so you can also check that out and check out our catalog of videos from previous webinars as well, so you can learn about even more employers hiring for flexible and remote positions. But again, thank you all so much for being here today. I really appreciate your attendance and great questions, and we wish you the best of luck in your job search. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.